hope there's someone here with us.
Yeah, I've never been live before.
Yeah. Well, I think we're just going to fake it for a bit here until we see, like, I have something that sort of shows that, who's watching or not. Oh,
Okay.
there's Teresa.
Hi, Teresa.
Are you familiar with Teresa through your own videos, Kerry?
If it's Teresa Conway, I met her
Oh,
through DJ over at Hither and
oh,
Yon.
okay.
Yeah.
No, this is a, a super subscriber, Teresa DeFredo. So,
Oh, I think she commented on one of my videos when I did the video about with the flip through from your video or from your journal that I bought from you. And she said, I've been
okay.
watching Hazel for 2.5 to 3 years. That's a
Yeah.
lovely journal. I was like,
Yeah.
yes, it is.
Well, and the thing is that and she says I did. Teresa is sometimes feels like she's my unofficial unpaid agent because someone will put a question in the comments and she'll say she did a video on that during the 100-day project.
That's fun. Yeah.
Teresa lives in Washington State and
Okay.
has been, I think, maybe a little bit sad, a little bit occupied because she and her husband were getting their house ready to list. And she says, I really do have a life. So, of course, as you can imagine, decluttering, packing, and all that goes with that. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's been interfering with her ability to watch videos.
I can imagine. I know for the last couple of weeks, I've been telling my husband, we just need to sell this house and buy a bigger house. And then he'll go to bed and I'll be like, okay, it's going to take like weeks to pack everything. I mean, our house isn't huge, but it is a 3-bedroom. And I also have a huge hall closet that's got stuff in it too. So
Yeah. Well, and I like to say that farming and housework will expand to fill the available time. And I think crafting supplies will expand to fill the available space. So I
yeah.
think bigger room just means more of everything.
Yeah. Well, I quilt too, so I have fabric everywhere as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I think that maybe I should just formally start this and say I'm so pleased to have Kerry here today from Thumbprint Creations by Kerry, and just to say, sort of how we got here. Um, my first connection with you was through the Happy Mail movement that Kim Newberg started, because it seems to me we exchanged some mail at that point
Yeah.
because Kim was looking for channels who wanted to participate.
Mhm.
And then, of course, when I was doing the um, Masterboard Madness, I was sort of, racking my brains, looking through videos, looking at people I was able to contact and so on. And I thought I had binged watched some of your videos, for instance, on the paper dyeing,
Oh,
and you were pretty patient in answering all my questions in the comments. And I thought, I think she's going to be a good one. So, of course, then that led to something else. And then I started this. And and
yeah.
Susie's here.
Hi,
Hi,
Susie.
Susie. And so one thing kind of led to another. Now, I do want to say that well, maybe we'll wait for a few more people to show up because I think it's an important message. But do you want to maybe just let these women know about this hairdo that you're rocking?
Oh, yeah. So I hit menopause a number of years ago, and I had hair almost down the middle of my back, and I live in South Georgia, and I would just sweat so bad. That's why I don't wear makeup anymore, because it just sweats off, and then the hot flashes. And I said to my husband, I'm just going to go. Oh, I'll tell you what I said to Hazel. I'm just going to go all Sinead O'Connor. And he's like, who's that? And I said, okay, G.I. Jane, Demi Moore. And he's like, oh, you're going to shave your head? And I was like, it's got to go. And the funny thing about that is I only told a few of my friends. Like I have a close knit group, but I know a lot of people. And I only told a handful of people, it's got to go. And I did it. And then everyone's like, oh my God, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm not as hot as I was, because I would sit in 100-degree heat in the car with a fan on, with the AC all the way up and the fan like this, sitting in traffic at red lights. People are looking at me like I'm crazy. And I'm like, no, it's got to go. So yeah, I usually keep it shorter than this.
I didn't know there was shorter than this.
Yeah, this is about 2 weeks grown out. So I cut it on a 1, which is 1/4 of an inch. So it's not very, it's a little bit long. I usually shave it every 2 weeks.
So are you a native Georgian? Is that the right word? Is that the word to say for people who live in Georgia?
Georgian, yeah. No, actually, my dad is retired from the Coast Guard. And when he retired, we had friends that had come from here, and they lived in a town right over. And when my dad retired, they moved here. I ended up moving here in 2004, and my mom passed away in 2006. And then I met my husband like 6 months later, and then we got married in 2007. And I knew him for 5 months. Basically.
Oh dear, there's a story there too.
Yes.
So what part of the country did you move from to Georgia?
Well, at the time
Alaska.
I was living, I grew up in Alaska. Yeah. I grew up on Kodiak Island from 1st grade to 8th grade. And then we moved from Kodiak Island to Chesapeake, Virginia. And I went to high school in Chesapeake, which is like maybe an hour and a half away from Virginia Beach is where I was. And I got married the day after I graduated high school, and then I got divorced a year and a half later. And then I was single for a long time, and circumstances, things happen, and I ended up moving to Philadelphia because my ex-husband found me, and that wasn't good. And my sister's husband was being transferred to Cuba for 3 years. And she said, well, because my ex-husband started to stalk me, and I was like, this isn't good. And she said, well, come and move in with me. And so I did. So I lived in Philly, and then I met another man up there, and we were together, I don't know, 8 or 10 years, long time. He got a job with the Border Patrol agency, and we moved to McAllen, Texas. And things didn't work out, and I had to come back home. So yeah. I came back home at 34.
I was just kind of wondering, as somebody who lives in Canada, of course, we have 4 distinct seasons, like we have winter, we have snow, we have cold. I just don't understand how the human body can tolerate some of these temperatures. Never mind, throwing menopause on top of the pile too.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I was in Texas for 6 years, I think. And the heat in Texas is different. There's nothing like Georgia heat. Even South Carolina, which is not that far from me, the South Carolina border, the heat there isn't even the same. And it's 10 miles down the street from me, But when I lived in Texas, I would wear jeans and cowboy boots even in the winter, because the heat is just different down there, but here, the less clothes, you can't take off as much clothes as you need to for the heat around here. But it actually snowed this year. So
well, everything is screwed up.
Yeah.
I want, you've been talking, so I want to read Teresa's comment. She says, my sister dyed her hair and it fell out. She came to our house for Christmas wearing a Santa cap. We sang karaoke and she asked me to play. Did I shave my legs for this? Hi, Gigi. Well, that, yeah. Anyway, I think that we should probably, get beyond the menopause hairdo and start talking a little bit about, why we're here tonight. And so my usual process, and some of you will have, experienced this. Some of you in the chat will have experienced this yourselves. That when I decide that I want to invite somebody, I reach out to them by email, just to gauge their interest and so on. Hi, Joni. And so basically, Kerry's answer was yes, I'd like to, but I need to tell you that I'm in recovery. Is that going to change my mind about wanting her to be here? And my response was, recovery from what? Recovery from alcoholism or from alcohol addiction, drug addiction, what? My concern being that if my only concern was reliability. Like, I would hate to promote something, have people show up, and then maybe the guest doesn't show up. I mean, that would be kind of a worst nightmare scenario. And Kerry's response was, no, I'm I'm in recovery from alcoholism, and I am ultra responsible. And I said, well, in that case, I have no issue whatsoever. And in fact, as much as we like to laugh at my channel, and we've done our share of laughing through this Heart to Heart series, I definitely hold my viewers in high esteem, and I believe that most people with any sense of empathy, understanding, maturity, wisdom, life experience know that you can't experience joy unless you've experienced sorrow. You can't celebrate good health unless you've been sick, and sort of those polar opposites in these kinds of situations. So, and then when I heard that you have been sober for 9 years, I'm thinking, well, this is a success story.
Yeah.
I know that that there's certainly alcoholics in my family, and I don't mean like I'm talking at the cousin, uncle, that sort of level, not my immediate family. So I know how devastating it can be. I know what a hell of a challenge it can be. And I also know that not everybody makes it to sobriety. So because you said that it kind of led you to where you are today, I want you to tell us your story.
Thank you, Hazel. So yeah, my sobriety date is February 29th, 2016. Because I didn't know what day it was. They joke and say that I only have a birthday once every 4 years, but I just celebrated 9 years in this past February. And it's definitely been a journey. I have been to the hospital several times, and I have flatlined several times. So they didn't expect me to make it the last time I was in the hospital. And I didn't stop drinking after that either. But I have heard when you hit bottom, it's all in your mind. And I found that to be true for me. So when my mom died suddenly, it was completely unexpected. And that's when everything started to get really bad in my life. And I started drinking even more. And I was drinking at work. I was drinking on the way to work. I was drinking on the way home. And I stopped at the bar one night on my way home, and I had lent I'd lent somebody my car and he wrecked it. And so I was driving my mom's van for a while, and I went to the bar after work, and my bartender says, I thought you bought a new car. And I was like, it keeps breaking down. She said, you need to go talk to him. And I was like, what for? And she said, he sells cars. I said, okay. So I went over and I introduced myself, and he said, after we started talking about relationships, and I said, I'm too old for that crap. And he said, what are you, 24? And I said, I'm 37. And he said, let me see your ID. And I was like, okay. Right? Not even thinking, I don't even know this guy. Right? And he carded me. And I was like, okay. And he goes, oh, well, you're not lying. I was like, why would I lie about my age? And he said, because all women lie about their age. And I said, okay. And then 2.5 months later, we moved in together, and 5 months total, we got married. And the funny thing about that is it had to be him, right? So when my mom was alive and we would go out together, we would pass this one house that has a heart-shaped pond in front of it. And she would always say, man, I wish I had the guts to just go knock on that door and ask him if I can sit by that pond and read a book. And my husband used to live in that house.
Oh.
So, yeah. And she didn't get to meet him. But I told him that story. And he's like, wow, I really wish I could have met her. And I wish that he could have too. But I think she's still around, because my mom used to smoke like a chimney. And just last night I said to him, I think my mom's like kind of been around. I said, I smell cigarettes. And he said, I don't smell it. I was like, well, it's back in this room, right? Because this was her end of the house. And he's like, oh, hi, Mom, But so, yeah, I finally hit my bottom, and I ended up in counseling and said, I'm not going back to AA. But 9 years later, that's why I'm still here, is because I did go to AA. I ended up getting a new career. But I got a sponsor, and I started working with her, and taxes and payroll and all that, bookkeeping and all that stuff. And then a position in AA actually opened up, and she said, you should apply for it. And I did, and I ended up getting it. And it was the office manager for the local AA office in Savannah. But I'm an hour north of Savannah, give or take. And so I did that job for about a little over 3 years, but it's very stressful. I would say at least half of Savannah has my phone number because I was the go-to person. But it got very stressful, and it was starting to hurt my sobriety. And so I had to go, which I was kind of devastated, because that honestly was my most favorite job I've ever had. And I worked I went to school to be a radiologic technologist, and I ended up working in the cath lab. And after a year, I was like, I can't do this because I can't drink like I need to. And so I quit. And that's why I ended up here. I had to make a geographical cure, and those don't work. But when I was the office manager, we had this function, and I was like, oh, I'll just make some bookmarks and some little things. And I brought them as door prizes. And somebody said, oh, where did you get this? I want some. And I was like, oh, I made that. And she goes, you made that? She goes, do you sell them? And I was like, no, I just make things and give them away. And she goes, you're losing a lot of money. And I was like, okay, thank you. Right. And then I get home, and I told my husband, he said, well, why don't you just quit your job and just do that? And a few more months went by, and that's exactly what I did. I quit my job, and I started working, making journals. But I have to back up a second, because after we weren't even married an entire year yet. And I woke up one day, and he said, hey, honey, I quit my job, and we're opening up a plumbing company. And I was like, okay, I guess I got to go to work. Right. And So that was in 2008, November of 2008. And we still own that plumbing company. And when I was working with that one woman doing payroll and all that stuff, I came home one day and I said, we're losing a lot of money by subcontracting out all this other work for all these other things. So why don't we just open up a handyman service? And so we did. And so now we had two businesses. And so I keep the books for those businesses. And then I send it over to my CPA so he can do my taxes. I don't need that headache. I just push the paper on that end. But we did do a reroute in this house here in 2019. And I helped him reroute or we did a remodel. And I helped him reroute the house. So I know a little bit of plumbing.
So just to circle back to the crafting end of it. So that woman's comment about the bookmarks or the little giveaways that you had done was enough to light the spark, open your eyes, and make you think about possibilities?
Yes, because at that point my job life had become so stressful that I was ready to do whatever it took to change the situation so I could keep my sobriety, because that's first and foremost the most important thing.
Yeah.
And if I had to quit my job, then I have to quit my job. You know what I mean? It's just that job is not worth it for me to lose something so precious.
Yes. Well, I think you deserve all the all the congratulations and kudos in the world, because I know, I just know that a lot of people don't make it. So I think that obviously, you've gone from making bookmarks and small items to having a YouTube channel,
That was an accident.
taking part in collabs, and all of that seems like a natural progression to where you needed to go. And if it's supporting this healthier lifestyle for you, then hey, you can't you can't quit that for sure.
No, I can't quit that for sure.
And I was, for those I just wanted to say, back when you were talking about marrying the car dealer guy, Gigi said she did too.
Sisters from another mister.
Yeah. Before we went on, I was just saying, it seems to me that you and I have a lot of things in common. We kind of live in the middle of nowhere. I think, and I want to delve into this a little further with you soon, but I think that okay, just to remind those of you who maybe have forgotten, like how could you, but those of you who have forgotten March and Masterboard Madness, Kerry was the one who, of course, like everyone else, had one day and she I think turned it into a mini series, at least 4 videos. we're still waiting to see if Netflix will pick it up. Anyway, I got the feeling that you are a very that you practice a lot of perseverance, that you are not going to be defeated by some damn little thing or another, like a sewing machine that's acting up, or just anything. And I know that sometimes, well, Susie especially will say, I can't believe how you persevered on, saying to me that she can't believe how I persevered with a particular project when she would have probably chucked it out the window by then. So we've got that. We I was watching one of your videos recently, and you talked about that you had forgotten your anniversary, and that you kind of had stopped, or you were discouraging the gift giving. And I don't think you went into detail as to what you actually bought, but you ended up buying yourself something. and telling your husband what it was that he that he gave you for the anniversary. And I'm thinking, oh my God, we've done that too for a while. And I think I might have said this in my channel at some point. For a while there, every time, like my husband was buying me jewelry, but it was always little tiny, like say earrings, little tiny flowers, little tiny leaves. And yes, they could be 10 or 14 karat gold. And then finally I said to him, and I know some of you can imagine, Hazel speaking her mind? What are you talking about? Anyway, finally I said to him, have you ever once in your life seen me buy anything like that? That's not my thing. So, you kind of can train these men sometimes to, maybe a gift card or an envelope with small unmarked bills would be better than a gift that doesn't cut it.
Yep. Yeah. So actually, I have this little rock right here.
Okay.
I don't know. It was Valentine's Day or maybe our birthday or something. This was a couple years ago. His birthday is March 26th and mine is March 28th. And I said, we've been married 17 years now, this past December. But when this was a couple years ago, I said, we've been married long enough. You have way too much stuff. I have way too much stuff. I don't need anything. Because I did have to tell him at one point, please stop buying me jewelry. I don't wear it. You know what I mean? And he said, well, what do you want? And I said, just get me a box of rocks. And then I forgot all about it. And the event passed and he didn't get me anything and I didn't get him anything. I just, whatever it was, happy anniversary or whatever. And a couple of months go by and he goes, oh, I have something in the truck for you. And I was like, what? Because it was not a holiday or anything. And he comes back with, those little tins that you get cookies in at the store. Oh, yeah. He said, I have a tin for you. And I was like, oh, cookies. And I was like, that's too heavy to be cookies. And I opened it up and there was a little card on top and it said, whatever, happy anniversary or Valentine's Day, whatever it was. And I opened it up and it was a tin of rocks. And this was right on top of it. So the tin is somewhere else, but I keep this on my desk so I can see it every day. But yeah.
That's cool. Also, before we went on air, for those, you can see that obviously Kerry is sitting in her craft room, and that top shelf is all journals. And if you watched her do the she bought one of my blush journals, which I was grateful to make the sale, and I was happy it was going to a good home and all of that. And as she did the flip through, she mentioned how much how much journaling she does, and she actually, fancy this, she buys them and she uses them. Like, what is this? Anyway, I want to know, is the journaling part of the recovery process for you? Or what, obviously you don't have to tell us what you write, but is it a tool that you use?
It was in the very beginning. I just kept a regular, college rule line notebook and I would journal in that. But when I journal now, so the reason why I like to buy other people's journals and use them is because when I make a journal, I already know where everything is. And so I'm not surprised. Right. So then when I can use somebody else's journal, I'll be like, oh, a little tag. Okay. And so I'll just write down whatever is going on that day. And I don't necessarily journal every day, but I glue things into my journals. As a matter of fact, the very first journal that I ever bought was from Pam at the Paper Outpost. And I wasn't really paying attention when I bought it because the spine was only an inch. And I had put so much stuff in it that the binding broke. And so now it's a 4-inch spine. And it doesn't look anything... It doesn't even, it's not hers anymore. I cut up every piece that I could and I used it as much as I could. And as a matter of fact, the journal that I'm working in right now is right there. And that is a journal that I got from a Christmas swap a couple years ago. Right. So I don't journal every day, but the very last piece of that journal from Pam, I just put it in that journal right there as a belly band because it's the spine. But
Well,
yeah, journaling, I just put in, just my one of my friends is a traveling occupational therapist, and she was actually she's in Alaska right now, and she asked me for my physical address so she could send me a postcard, and I got that postcard in the mail today, so that went in that journal. So things like that. Write down, this is what happened today. It was either good or it was bad, and work it out in a journal, or yeah, that journal is like that thick now.
Well, what you've said makes me think of a couple of things, because the flip through you did after you bought my journal, you also bought one from Kathleen Maurer, who I absolutely love, and I'm thinking, I think Kathleen books sell quickly, and now you say Pam from the Paper Outpost, we know that her stuff, like I think her stuff sells kind of within minutes of it being listed. So number one, you must have some trigger fingers there or something for getting these things. But yeah, I think Pam, at least when I was watching, she was one of the first people I ever watched, and she would make these giant gator mouth things. So was that maybe one of her early journals that had such a skinny little spine?
This was probably about 3 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was. She made it out of a paper bag, and
Okay.
I don't know if anyone else follows her. It was a paper bag that she hand doodled, like butterflies, and it was like she used pink and yellow. It wasn't a crayon or a gelato, but maybe a a colored pencil or something. She
Okay.
doodled all in it. But yeah, that journal doesn't, it's across the room. Otherwise I'd show it to you. I didn't think about it.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And I just and again, forgive me for turning this up into, well, Hazel wants to know, but we're actually going on an Alaskan cruise this summer. So I know that a lot of people have done that, and um, I have never heard anything but the actual um, with I have never heard anything but people raving about it. So, do you want to say a word on behalf of Alaska?
So we moved there when I was 6, and we left there and moved to Virginia when I was 14.
Okay.
So
Your
it was
information is dated.
it was a really long time ago, and I was a tomboy when I was growing up, so I lived in the woods and I lived in the fishing holes, and my best friends were 2 brothers that lived right behind us, and we played flag football in the backyard, and we we actually would make igloos out of the small trash cans that are like rectangle. You pack them with snow, and you would make the circle, and then you douse it with cold water, and then you make the next row and you douse that, and we would make igloos. And it actually is quite warm in an igloo, believe it or not.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Uh, so again, I know from the videos that you did for the Masterboard Madness collab that you have mentioned, or you mention often in your videos, that you are a quilter. So maybe talk a bit about that. Um, I have to say, another thing that pointed up to me how determined and particular you are was when you did that weaving with the denim, and I thought, man, oh man, is that precise? And well, I have a question about that. Number one, would it work as well? Well, I'm sure it would work as well with upholstery fabric, a heavier drapery fabric, maybe corduroy or velvet or something like that. But can you make it so darn good using like 100% cotton, or is that kind of light and flimsy?
I don't see why you wouldn't be able to, but you would definitely have to have a backing for it. Like, you could use a bed sheet, or muslin is a little bit thicker than quilting cotton. At least the stuff that I buy is. Um,
But
I don't
that's
see it
after
would
the
be tedious.
weaving. That's
It would be
after the
tedious.
weaving, right? So you're talking about the backing?
Um, you it would be difficult. It would be it's meticulous work. You would have to figure out how big you wanted it first of all. So then you'd have
Yeah.
to there would be a lot of math involved.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I just got the feeling that to be a quilter, you have to be precise. You have to take pride in your work because if you're off, like if you cut crooked or if you're, you know, close enough in your measurements, it's going you'll it's going to blow up in the end. It's not going to work the way it's supposed to. So, do you find that that helps or hurts you now when you're making journals?
I think it helps me only because I was a quilter before I started making journals. And that's a story in itself, actually. I My mom was a quilter, but she's not the one who taught me how to quilt. I actually taught myself in early sobriety. Somebody had asked me to share my story, and it was very, very early sobriety, and I had like 5 months to think. And that's way too much time. And so I would take everything out of my craft room and put it in the living room and purge and reorganize and put everything back. And I did that one day, and I tripped over a tote, and I was like, I swear I put this tote in the attic, and this tote better not be full of fabric, because I know that I put it up there, and it was the tote I swore I put up in the attic. And I was like, well, God got jokes, so I guess I'm supposed to learn how to sew. And so I opened up YouTube, and it took me about 2.5 hours to figure out how to thread the machine and thread the bobbin. And then like another 2.5 hours to actually figure out how to put the bobbin in the machine so the thread comes up together. Um, and my very first quilt, I when I met my husband, I was a cook in a restaurant, and I used to wear boxers under my shorts or my jeans. And so my very first quilt is actually all of the boxers that I used to wear when I was a cook. And I still have it too, because I didn't know what I was doing, and I wasn't measuring because I don't know what I'm doing. And so it's not very big, and it's not very good, but I'm going to keep it, And the second quilt I ever made, it looked good until I quilted it, and now it looks terrible, but I gave it to my dad, and he loves it because I made it, right?
Yeah.
And then a few years go by, and one of my Facebook friends said, "Hey, I saw that quilt that you did. Would you do one for me?" And I was like, "You want me to make you a quilt for money?" And she was like, "Yes." And so I did. But I said, "Well, what do you want? Like, what kind of design?" She said, "Oh, you figure it out." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And so I did. And I sat there for weeks just doodling with colored pencils on a piece of paper. And it actually came out very cool. And I don't know where I would find a picture of that anymore, but I had stripes coming down on each corner, and then up and then over, and then a whole set in the middle. And it actually it's very symmetrical, and it's a box within a box within a box. And I totally did not mean for that to happen. I was just putting fabric together. And I've actually made her two quilts. So
That's really cool. Yeah, there are so many people who have channels that keep saying, "Oh, it doesn't matter, there are no rule. The only rule is there is no rule." And I think that some of us may be recovering perfectionists, but
guilty.
I honestly, I think that maybe some of us are hardwired in such a way that we can't totally go throw everything out the window and just throw caution to the wind and stop caring or stop trying. You know, if a crooked line is offensive, I'm going to keep at it till I get it straight enough, or I find a way to hide the fact that it's crooked.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes with age comes a wee bit of wisdom where we figure out that um, it's better to, you know, what's that line? Done is better than perfect. So, and in fact, a bit of trivia in case you ever have, you're ever playing a game about mental health, perfectionism, perfectionism is considered part of that um, umbrella of diseases that fits under the generalized anxiety disorder heading. So, because anyway, we're not going to go down that path, but let's just say that cutting loose every so often and letting things be less than absolutely perfect, I think is kind of freeing. And I keep trying to work towards that a bit more in my videos, in my art practice, just
Yeah.
to sort of thumb my nose at the old way and to think that, hey, it's just a glue book. It's just an art journal. I can put a hat on an elephant if I want to, even if it isn't, you won't find one in nature.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, have you had to, um, or maybe you have no desire to, are you, do you think you're fairly loose and creative, or do you get your satisfaction from being precise and exact and uh, meeting your own expectations in terms of quality?
Um, I try not to have expectations on what I make. Or I actually had a sponsor tell me I was not allowed to have expectations, and I was like, that is completely impossible. But I understand what she means today, and what she meant was if you don't have any expectations, you're never going to be disappointed, right? And so the only thing that I make sure I'm 100% with, or try to be as perfect as possible, is when I make quilts. And that's only because, like you said, it's precision, right?
Yeah,
There's some quilters out there that are like, oh, it's got to be a scant quarter inch, or it's got to be exactly a quarter inch seam. And that's not how I roll. I don't really follow any design except whatever is in my head, but I have to make sure that all the pieces are the correct size.
yeah,
Um, but I don't use a scant quarter inch, and I don't use a quarter inch. I just put it up against this. I've had a lot of people say, "Oh my God, you sew such a straight line." Well, the best way to sew a straight line is to line whatever you're sewing with the edge of your presser foot, and as long as you're paying attention, it's going to stay pretty straight. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
And that's the only precision that I keep, that I try and keep today, is with quilting.
yeah,
Because everything else, like when I first started journaling or making journals, I would try and be so precise that I would cut those edges, and oh, it's not straight, and I got to cut it again. And now I'm left with half of a piece of paper because it never got straight, right? And so when that happens, I just tear around the edges and make the whole thing torn. So none of it's going to be straight,
yeah.
right?
When you said that, it reminds me of Bert and Ernie. And was it Ernie that was always the smarter one? And he would always be dividing up the cookies. And he had to keep munching on that one cookie to make it fair. And before you know it, he's eating the whole thing. So, of course, you know as well as I do that it is physically impossible to watch all the videos, even for the people we feel closest to. It's impossible to stay caught up on watching and commenting on content. So if you have these kind of videos on your channel, I apologize for not knowing.
Oh, that's
But
fine.
if you don't, I'd like to make a suggestion. For those of us that, quite often, well, I didn't ask you if you're a thrifter, but okay, so you can answer that in a second. But many of us, I think, occasionally come across things in thrift stores that are either started quilts or fabrics that have been cut into, the squares or the hexagons or whatever, circles. And I'm one of those people. And for the longest time, I'm thinking, okay, I bought it because it was nice and the price was right. Now what? And especially like with hexagons. So, do you have any videos where you could maybe give some quick and easy ideas for how those of us maybe have a little titch of buyer's remorse can actually use these things up?
Yeah, actually, in one of my videos, I did say if y'all want to know anything more about sewing, right? Because it's a junk journal channel. I can do some sewing videos, and nobody commented, so I would be more than happy to. I love to sew.
Oh,
Um,
okay, good.
my husband actually bought me a sewing machine for Christmas, because I did have a backup and the backup broke. And the one that I used, that I have one right there, and I use that one for, I'm using it for both paper and fabric. And you really shouldn't do that. And so he bought me one for Christmas, which is over there. And he didn't realize he bought me the same exact machine. So, so I have duplicate machines. And so now all my quilting stuff is on that side, and then all my journaling stuff is right here.
Yeah.
I would just
So
have to move the camera.
yeah. Well, I thought that any videos that I saw where you were sewing, it was you had it set up perfectly so a person had a good view. Because I think I've only tried to sew on camera once, and I know I've seen a million videos where all you can see basically is the is the chassis of the sewing machine, and you can't see what the heck is going on. But anyway, the smart ass in me wants to know, did he buy a sewing machine because they were sold out of rocks or what?
He was probably in the doghouse.
Oh, there's it's actually very fortuitous to have two identical machines because then you don't have to readjust your mind or your memory as to okay, what's setting on which machine. So
Yeah, actually, that's funny because when I unwrapped it, I started chuckling. He's like, "What's so funny?" And I said, "Did you know that this is the same machine I already have?" And he goes, "Oh, we can take it back and get a different one." And I was like, "Why would I want to do that? I already know how to use this machine. You know, why would I want to get a different one?" So yes, it's perfect. I'm glad that he got that one because I'd considered having him return it because I was like, I already have one. But then the other machine broke, and I was like, we'll keep that one. Yeah, that
yeah.
one's not going back. So
So, not that you probably need any ideas from me, but I'll tell you what I did do with some of those quilt pieces. So, I had circles that were probably 3 inches in diameter. And I thought, well, this is a good portable craft to take along. And I would pack some embroidery thread or pearl cotton and just do some slow stitching on there. So, if it had a floral something or other, I would outline the flower. And then, of course, hopefully use those pieces somewhere. But even worse than the circles were the hexagons. And I know that some of them had whoever donated them must have already turned back the seam allowance and pressed them so they were a nice shape. And
yeah,
I'm thinking, well, I could I could do top stitching around this, I guess, or something to keep that the way it is. I turned some of the circle ones, I folded them in half and turned them into little pockets.
oh, cute.
And then I was on Temu, whatever that is, and I bought, and this is probably a waste of money, you'll tell me, I guess, a set of little templates, a variety of sizes and shapes. And there was one hexagon in there that was the perfect size for the little pieces I have. So, but of course, I still don't know what to do with it.
I've
So
actually never.
anyway, when you have time, yeah, do a few of those videos. I'm sure that they'll be useful to many of us.
Yeah, I would love to. I actually bought some fabric to make a quilt, and not for any particular reason, just for downtime, but I really don't have any downtime right now. Um I got an order of 12 journals last year that I towards the end of the year that I just finished like 2 months ago maybe, and I have 3 of them that I need to do videos on. And then I have 15 to make right now. And then I got 10 of them done, put together. Now I just got to decorate them. And then an order of what, 4 and then 1. And then when I'm done with all that, I have 2 more orders of 10.
Okay. You have my attention now. Before we went live, you told me that you're busy. Now, I would like to know, as would the entire world, how did this happen? Is it word of mouth? Is it bulk orders? Are you underpricing your product? Like, what is going on here?
Actually, that's kind of a funny story. So,
Isn't it always?
so I was on Vistaprint ordering some business cards, and I happened to be in the living room on my laptop, and I was talking to my husband, and he said, well, while you're on there and while you're on it, why don't you get some magnetics? I have a Jeep Wrangler. And he said, get 3 of them, put 1 on either side of the Jeep, and then I'll put 1 on my personal truck. And I said, okay. And so everything came in, and I was all excited, and he was excited. And he says, I'll go put them on right now. And so he goes outside, and then he comes back in like a minute later. And I was like, well, that was quick. And he goes, come on outside. I got to show you something. I said, okay. So I went outside, and he held the magnetic up to the door on the Jeep and pushed it on and let go, and it fell and hit the ground. And I went, oh, it's not even made out of metal. It's plexiglass.
Oh.
So his truck, I have a magnetic on 1 on his truck. And then on our work van, the other 2 are on either side. So our work van has our plumbing company logo, our handyman service, and now my crafting business.
So are you saying that all those jobs, all those commissions came from that source? From your
Yes.
magnetic signs?
Yes. Actually, but some of my subscribers are our plumbing customers, and they're also my customers. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So, yeah.
Well, I guess to a lesser degree, I can sort of understand that. Like last year when we did our income tax, I took some of my journals to the appointment with the CPA and said, this is what I've been doing. Because of course, I bring paperwork, and I show her my losses, I show her my income, and here, make sense of this. And this is what I've been doing. And she fell in love, and she bought several of those. She bought several journals.
No,
and then because it's a big firm, she also ordered a baby book last year. And then she ordered a second one. When we did our taxes this year, she ordered 3 more. So, it does, I think, help to have the relationships. But that's incredible. Now, before you get to Teresa's question, did you see it?
No, I don't see any. Am I in the wrong spot? Maybe.
Well, no.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what the question is, but I first have my own question. Do you? I mean, other than kind of being guaranteed that you're going to make a sale, do you like doing commissions? Do people give you full free reign to do whatever you want, or do they say, and I want it to be blue and pink, and I want 14 lineal feet of lace and 14 pockets, and in other words, they're dictating every step of the process?
I've only had one person say, and that's the wedding journal that I'm working on. The wedding already happened, and she said, we'll wait until after Christmas. And so I'm working on it right now. And she gave me a few things that I could use in there. And accent colors are to be blue and yellow, because that's the flowers that were at the wedding. But other than that, I've asked, and everyone's like, no, just, I've seen what you do. Just do your thing. And I'm sure I'll be happy with it. I'm like, okay.
That's awesome. Okay. So Teresa's question, Kerry, what is your average time from order to completion?
Oh gosh, that's kind of hard to say because I've been working on like 10 and 12 journals at a time. So let's see, what today is May 8th. It's taken me 3 weeks to put together 10 journals with signatures bound in. And I finished one, decorated completely, and then I'm on the second one to decorate now. Um, it's really hard to say because I find it really difficult actually to make more than one journal at a time. So when I first started, and I was making them just to make them, not to sell them, I would make a piece, like I didn't even know what these things were called, right? But I'm making a piece of ephemera that I didn't know what it was at the time. I'm just watching videos and making things. And then I'm like, oh, this doesn't go with that. And I'm like, oh, well, I have fabric that will match what I just made. And so then I would have like 8 or 10 going at a time. But they weren't going anywhere. They were just there for me to work on them. So I, whenever I wanted. And so I actually find it difficult to make that many at a time for an order. I find it easier to just work free reign because when I was doing that, I would get 8 or 10 journals done in like 2 weeks. But it's because I mean, I don't have a job outside of the house except, I do our paperwork for our companies and I pass it off to the CPA, but I don't go anywhere. I'm at home. The only time I leave the house is when I need something and I can't wait for my husband to go get it. Or like I got to go get my toes done. He can't get that done for me. You know what I mean? I don't even leave the house to check the mail. I leave the house to go to my AA meetings, and that's pretty much it. Unless I'm expecting a package, then I'll drive to the post office. But other than that, I work when I want, which I'm usually more often than not in this room. It's gotten to the point where I've had to set my alarm. So I'll stop working at 5 o'clock and then my husband will come home, we'll eat dinner, and then we'll watch some TV, and then he'll fall asleep. And as soon as he falls asleep, I come right back in here. Sometimes I have to set the alarm and say, okay, I'm done at 11 p.m. And then other times I'm just like, well, I got a lot to do. I just won't set the alarm. And the next thing I know, it's 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, well, I'm not even tired, but I really do need to go to bed so I can get up and work more tomorrow. But I could just, if I didn't need sleep, I could do this 24 hours a day.
Okay, that makes me think of a few things. Number one, I told you before we went on air that I think we might have been sisters from different misters. So, yes, where time becomes meaningless and a person like just spends hours upon hours upon hours always working. And even if you physically leave your space and maybe go to watch a hockey game or to watch Netflix or something, my hands are busy. I'm fussy cutting or I'm ripping stitches or whatever I'm doing. So there's that thing. And the other story that nobody heard you say, because it was before we went on, was how you, through sheer brute force and determination, rearrange some of the stuff in your office. And I'm thinking, well, I've done that too. It makes not a bit of sense, but it's the impatience, it's the wanting it done now. It's the I am woman, I am strong. I don't need to get help, even though, of course, we need to get help.
Yeah.
So that just makes me the rapport is incredible. So you said I got an order for 12 journals. Now, is that 12 customers or is that one person who said, make me 12 journals?
One person that said, make me 12 journals.
And is the expectation that they're going to be same size, same, like all one signature, blah, blah, blah?
They actually are all the same size. I generally make my journals all 9 by 6.
Yeah.
or maybe a little off of that, just because when you fold a piece of paper in half, it fits in there perfectly, and
Yeah.
I don't have to cut anything.
Yeah.
And then they all have 3 signatures, so that's probably why it takes me a longer time.
Yeah.
But I am making top dollar for it, so I'm not complaining about the work, and I'm not complaining about lack of sleep either, because I really would rather be doing nothing else than be sitting in
Yeah.
this room.
Well, that is awesome. And if everyone in the chat leaves us, you know they've gone to order their own magnetic signs.
Somebody else asked me about that, and they're like, "But how do you?" Right? Because my husband came home one day and he said, "Yeah, so I was at this customer's house, and they said, oh, I want one of those um, business cards," and he handed him the person of H2O Plumbing, or our plumbing company, and she said, "No, not that one," pointing at my magnetic. And actually, one of my sisters in sobriety, he actually has a contract with the plumbing company for the company that she works with, and he didn't know that I knew her. And I've only actually ever met her on the phone. But she called me one day and said, "Hey, do you know a Bobby Henry?" And I was like, "That's my husband. Why?" And she goes, "Because he's standing right in front of me." And I was like, "Well, why is he there?" Like, he didn't tell me where he was going. And then he left, and he's like, "Oh, I just met your friend Lisa, and she wants a journal." And he had to go back. It's a big company, and so he went there for a different job. And the place that it's at, you have to sit in the waiting room, and you have to wait for an employee to come get you and bring you through the building. And so he was sitting there waiting, and this woman came out, and she was watching YouTube. And he said, "Excuse me, but who are you watching on YouTube?" And she goes, "Just YouTube." And he goes, "But who is it?" And she said, "Why?" And he said, "Because that sounds like my wife." And she said, "Oh, that can't be your wife. I'm watching Thumbprint Creations by Kerry." And he goes, "Yes, that's my wife." And she ordered a journal.
Oh my goodness. You must have, well, horseshoes up your butt or are living the charmed life or I don't know what, but this is mesmerizing to me.
When I first got sober, I didn't know what to expect. But I could not have even fathomed what my life would be like 9 years later. And, not every day is a perfect day. But every day is a great day that I get up sober. You know what I mean? And so a bad day is really irrelevant, because in a couple hours, whatever I'm upset about is not going to matter anymore. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I don't know, I have a completely different attitude today than I did before. And so I think that has a lot to do with it.
Yeah. 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 Just and I don't know that this, if one thing has anything to do with the other. Um with people who are in 12-step programs, is believing in God a plus, or is it kind of doesn't matter?
Honestly, it doesn't matter. As long as you believe that you're not God, is pretty much what they say,
Yeah,
right?
I'm
Um,
powerless.
yeah, I am powerless over everything. As a matter of fact, I want to get another tattoo next for my 10-year sobriety, and I want to get the serenity,
Oh
courage,
yeah.
wisdom triangle thing, and I want to put my sobriety date on there, because everyone says don't put your sobriety date on your body in ink, because what if you go back out? And I'm like, but what if I don't? You know what I mean? I don't know if you can see it, but I have had people ask me about this.
Yes.
It says
Oh.
miracle in a heartbeat.
Oh yes. Cool.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't see a reason not to get my sobriety date put on my body. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I've
Yeah.
been through worse, and I can't imagine I mean, my mom died when I was 36 years old. You know what I mean? I can't imagine anything that could be worse than that for me today, you know? So I
Yeah.
know I'm pretty happy go lucky kind of person.
Yeah. Well, and I have noticed that tattoo in videos, and I always thought, yeah, that looks like an ECG, but it wasn't until you held it up that I realized that the word miracle is built into it. So, yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool. Would you say that people who have addictive personalities, and I realize alcoholism is a disease. It's not a failure of will or, you know, someone who can't get their, don't have the willpower or the strength or whatever. So, is an addictive, do you see other aspects of an addictive personality in yourself or in other alcoholics that you know? And is that part of the thing that maybe keeps you up until 2 in the morning? The idea that I'm just gonna, like I can't quit. I'm just going to go another hour.
It's usually, honey, just let me finish this one more thing, just one more thing. And that one more thing turns into 5 hours.
Yeah.
But yes, I still have an addictive personality. I wake up and I drink coffee until at least 5 o'clock. I won't drink coffee after 6 p.m., but I drink coffee all day, and then I drink water or hot tea at night. So yeah, and chocolate, forget about it. It's not staying in this house too long.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of suspected that. I mean, I asked the question because I suspected I knew the answer. And I think that there are a number of us that have that issue. And, this interview is about you, not me, but yeah, I can, and I think that, and I meant to ask you about the thrifting. I think that, shopping is another addiction for many of us. So do you, well, mind you, I guess you don't thrift if you never leave the house.
Uh, I do love to go thrifting. The problem is that the thrift stores in my area aren't really great. And so I do a lot of my thrifting on eBay
Oh, okay.
or Etsy. Um, yeah, or if I do go out of town for a function or whatever, I will find all the thrift stores and I will go to as many as I possibly can. I actually got lucky when I was out of town on a business trip, and I went thrifting, and I found a tote for $10 that it was just nothing but fabric in it. And I said to them, "Is this whole tote $10?" And they're like, "I guess so. That's what the tag says." And I said, "I'll take it." You know,
Yeah,
and I still have some of that fabric because some of it is like knit jersey stuff that
yeah,
I won't use.
yeah,
I still have it. Although I am purging, so right now it's in a box to go to Goodwill because
yeah,
I'm not going to use it, and it's no reason for me to keep it anymore.
yeah. Yeah, you can pay $10 for an empty tote, never mind all the fabric. I just want to draw your attention to another comment from Teresa. She says that she can whip together a journal pretty easy. It's a decorating that takes her forever. So,
Yeah.
how do you find the process for you? Like, when you have that many orders, do you do it kind of like an assembly line? So you'll get all your papers, you'll fold all your papers, you'll distribute all your papers. And are the journals you sell fairly naked, or are they fully like decorated to the nines?
Um, I kind of work in an assembly line. I make all the covers first, and that includes fabric. And actually, I have one right here. I'm decorating this one right now. So I'll make the cover, and then I'll do the inside here,
Yeah.
and I'll do that for all of them. And
Okay.
then I'll go back one at a time and get papers for each one on an individual basis. and I put 10 pages in each signature, and each journal is 3 signatures. And then they're not, it's not like a Pam at the Paper Outpost Chunky Monkey journal,
Yeah.
but it's not naked either. It's
Yeah.
somewhere in between.
Yeah. So, do you always start with the same structure? Like, do you make your like, do you use recycled packaging, or do you use actual book covers and then just cover them with fabric, or what's your MO?
Um, we eat a lot of cereal, so most of them are cereal boxes. However, because of the consistent orders, I can't eat that much cereal. So I've had to start buying chipboard, or
Okay.
taking other packaging, um, and cut it, and make a spine and the whole 9 yards,
Yeah.
and then make and actually have 2 pieces of chipboard, one for the outside that's covered in fabric, and then the chipboard that goes on the inside to keep it strong.
Yeah. And because you love fabric and have that quilting background, are the covers always covered in fabric?
They are, and not for the reason that you think. Not because I'm a quilter, but because I have a really difficult time with paper on the outside and it bending and then cracking. And
Mm,
so I just find it easier to make a fabric cover, and then the panels on the inside is paper, and then put a fabric backing behind the spine, and
yeah.
then underneath the 2 front panels. And then that way I don't have to deal with cracked paper,
Yeah.
because that my perfectionism kills me on cracked paper.
I did see your wedding journal in progress, and I'm thinking, oh, that is so luscious. And I don't know if you had a chance to read the comment I left, but at that point you were struggling with, oh, how do I do this gown? So I offered you a suggestion, but
I
I,
did.
I, at any given moment, because I don't have the 35 orders waiting that you do, at any given moment, I sort of have it's not even written down. It's all up here, kids. How scary. Um, anyway, I have a list of the different projects I want to do, and I have been collecting stuff for a wedding journal. I just thought, make sort of a generic one that somebody might want to buy as a
Oh,
gift. And then, of course, the couple could personalize it or whatever. But I haven't gotten there yet. But I have made a lace covered, I don't even know, I must have a video on that somewhere. Lace covered book, not as nice as yours.
thank
But
you.
I know you were sort of, maybe a little complaining that about how much time you had put into it. So
Oh,
did you glue that all down? Did you sew it all together and then glue the entire lacy thing to the cover, or what
I
did you do?
I pinned it with I
Okay.
pinned it all down, and then I sewed it all together.
Okay.
But I did read your comment, actually, and when I was reading it, I was like, "Oh my god, I have these little pieces of wood," because I make crafts too. Not because why not, right? I bought these little pieces of wood at Dollar General or Dollar Tree, so I don't know, years ago, and they have a flat back, and so it looks like maybe the size of a wine cork cut in half.
Oh,
But it's
okay.
wood. And I was cleaning the other day, and I was like, I should probably just throw these out, is what I was thinking. I don't know why I bought them. I don't remember. And they've just been collecting dust. And then I got your comment, and I was like, that's exactly what I can use them for, to elevate that dress, to glue them underneath and make the dress come out. So thank you for your comment. 'Cause, yeah, I
See,
never would have
people,
thought that.
comments do work.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Yeah.
cool. Okay, so but back to that cover. You had it looked like all kinds of layers and variety of lace. Did you pin them to a backing fabric first? Sew them to the backing fabric, and then you're going to, or maybe you already did, glue them onto the cover. Okay.
Yeah, so, the base of it is muslin, and
Hmm.
then it's got a layer of, light blue tulle, and then it's got lace, and then doilies, and then more lace on it, and then more doilies on top of that, because I got to be extravagant and over the top, right? But also because I couldn't figure out how to make the dress flow. But yes, once it's now that I got that comment, and I know that I can use those to elevate it. Once I get that done, I'm just going to Fabrifix glue the whole thing together.
Yeah.
Because the base of it is a photo album, and it's kind of thick, and that will not go through a domestic sewing machine.
Yeah. Oh, did it that my comment just slipped my mind? Oh, I know. So we're familiar with Fabri-Tac, of course, and Fabrifix and Beacon glue and all that. Anyway, a
Yeah.
long time ago, I might have been in a fabric store and I saw that there was a Fabri-Tac brand of spray adhesive. So I absolutely hate stinky, toxic smells. But I was working on this baby journal, and I think maybe that video has aired, or maybe it's scheduled. I don't know. Anyway, my cover, the outside of the cover was a piece of wallpaper because it was exactly the colors that my sister had requested. Anyway, then I sprayed the fabric that I was using on the inside, and it said, do not saturate. But of course, I'm doing it outside because I don't want it to stink inside.
Yeah.
And I ended up having to disguise that because it was really thin. I think it was bed sheet or something that had been washed to within an inch of its life.
Yeah.
And so have you ever tried using a spray adhesive, or?
I did when I first started quilting, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
I find it difficult to work with quilting, and the smell. I can't deal with.
Yeah.
I mean, the Fabrifix has a pretty strong odor too, but as long as I keep my face away from it, it's really not that bad. But that spray, I'm not going to go outside in the Georgia heat and spray that. And so, yeah, I tried it once inside, and I choked. It was just too much. So I can't use that.
And then I was wondering if I had shaken the bottle enough too, because it probably sat here at my place for a year or more, and who knows how long it sat on the shelf in the store.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was kind of disappointed with that whole product. So it seems like maybe stick with the old school.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm not very good at reminding people to please, give this live a thumbs up, and of course I should also be, well, okay, your channel name is there, kind of almost covering part of your face.
Yeah, because I'm a sloucher.
Anyway, please, if you haven't already subscribed to Kerry's channel, check her out, subscribe to her channel. And I think we've probably done enough talking about some of the videos to make you want to check out the woven denim, the paper dyeing. Oh, I need to talk to you about paper dyeing. The wedding book, just there are so many reasons to visit her channel. But yeah, one of the very first, and I don't know, well, I guess it probably just came up in the feed or something. You did a whole series of videos on paper dyeing, and I absolutely love that. Almost like, I was going to say mosaic, but that's not right. Almost like
marbling, almost.
Marbling, yes.
Yeah.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
When I tried it, I didn't get very good results.
Oh, practice, really. I usually let the paper sit in the solution a lot longer. Most people are like, oh, don't keep it in there, just dip it and take it out, and because it'll tear. I've left paper sitting in solution for like 3 days before, because I got busy and forgot about it, and my husband moved it, and it wasn't in view anymore, right? And then I was like, oh crap, I forgot about that. And I was like, oh, well, it's dry now. Cool. but I've gotten that I found that spot where you have to hit with tweezers to pick it up and then run your fingers underneath of it to then pull up the whole side so you can pull it up at one time.
Yeah.
But then when to get the marble, you soft crumple. I don't really know how to explain it because I don't even know how well that shows up on a video, but it's just you take it out and let the extra solution drip off, and then you kind of softly crumple it. So not into like a tight ball, but you
Mm,
have to get that perfect. It's not quite dry, but it's not really wet. And so you have to just keep poking it and playing around with it
yeah.
to get the marbling, so once you crumple it, then you put other colors on top of it or coffee or tea or whatever you're using.
Yeah.
And that's where the marbling comes from when it's crumpled.
And you were using Rit dye.
Yes.
So is that the liquid stuff that I see that's so expensive in the store? Like $7 a bottle? Well, in Canada anyway.
Um, when I don't know how much it is now, but it was under $4 a bottle.
Oh, okay.
So it might be higher now because I did buy that a couple years ago and I forgot why I bought it. So that's why I started using it on paper.
Yeah. Oh, and I just want to say hi to Sierra from Cooley Craft Corner who's joined us. Welcome. And so I have, and this was a garage sale purchase, I have a whole bunch of dye that I still intend to try that idea with that. But and I also, again, probably thrifted items, have the old boxes of Rit, like when it was powder.
Oh yeah.
So I suppose that would work too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I've used Kool-Aid before also. You have to make sure it's sugar-free though. But I actually sent some to Joan at Joan's Junk Journals and More because
Okay.
she said you guys don't have Kool-Aid packets in Canada. So
I
I
haven't
sent her some.
looked. Well, but what I can't believe that you can find unsweetened Kool-Aid because it was basically all sugar with some artificial
It
dyes.
it comes in a well, you can get it either in little packets or in I don't know, a container that's maybe that big, I don't a
Yeah.
little bit bigger than this, right?
Oh yeah.
But when you buy it in the powder packets, you have to add your own sugar. It's just the colored dye and the flavor that's in the powder. And so when you mix it with water, then you have to mix sugar in with it. But if you're using sugar in it, the sugar will most likely make your paper mold down the line. And I haven't experienced
Oh,
that. I just heard somebody else said, don't, if you're using Kool-Aid or whatever you're using, make sure there's no sugar because the sugar will make your paper mold.
I would suppose that that would depend on your climate though too. If it's a humid climate,
Yeah, it's
probably
very
more
humid here.
likely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so I typically ask people if there's anything that they want to promo, anything that they're have on their to-do list, their what they're up to. But you probably covered all that with all these journals. It's really good to also get an order where there isn't like a time sensitive deadline.
Yeah. Actually, the 10 that I have right now, they're due on Saturday.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So I'll be working late into the night for the next day and a half. So those can be ready. But the ones after that, I don't think that there's a timeline on that because I think that it's actually two women from a church and the women are giving them out. I think I don't even know. I haven't met the people. Bobby just comes home with money and says, here's a deposit on this. and I don't even know their names, to be honest with you. He just says the 12 or the 10. When you're done with those, then there's 10 more twice.
So
That's
maybe
all I know.
he's your agent.
He is. He is actually, yeah.
Well, now it doesn't take much for most women to feel guilty about something. Now I feel bad that you said yes to me when you have this
Oh,
pressing deadline. We could have rescheduled you.
no, no, no. It's all good. It's all, what time is it? It's almost 9:30. Guaranteed he's been asleep for about 2 hours already. So it's no problem for me working, right? Because he doesn't even expect me to get up with him anymore.
Yeah,
I work until I want, and then I go to bed when I want, and then I get up when I want, and then
yeah.
I work all day. And
Well, and I, for one, believe that that is the absolute, almost the best perk for doing this, that we get to define our own day,
yeah,
and we're masters of what we do, when we do it, and how we do it. So
absolutely.
that is awesome. Um, Now, I think I heard in one of your videos that you love purple. Is that true?
Yes, purple is my favorite color. Um,
Okay, I'm adding you to the purple lovers list.
and roses actually also, which I was a giveaway winner for Betsy over at Museful Creations, and I didn't even realize that I had entered. I just commented on one of her videos, and then next thing I know, I'm getting a nice fat package in the mail. And one of the things that she sent is stamps, and she left a comment and said the reason I sent the stamps with the roses because you said you love roses. And I commented back and said, the reason I love the roses so much is because it's the first plant that I ever had that I haven't killed yet. But so I actually have to cut them back right now because they're way unruly.
Yeah.
But I will, there's a picture on my post in my community post with my roses on there.
Oh, cool. And I guess I can almost guess the answer to this as well, but I will ask the question since we spent quite a bit of time, I think it was last episode, talking about people being introverts. Would you describe yourself as an introvert?
No.
Oh, even though
No.
you're okay, so even though you don't physically leave your house very much, you still love lots of people around you.
Um, I hate people when I'm driving.
Oh,
But no, I've pretty much always been a social butterfly. And I
okay.
don't know if that's because, well, I became a social butterfly when I started drinking. But I didn't start drinking until I was almost 22. So yeah, I was always the life of the party until I wasn't able to
Oh,
be the life
yeah.
of the party, but I don't know, just I have been disappointed by too many people in sobriety. And so as much as I am not an introvert and I do love people, I don't really like everybody. And so I'd rather stay at home and talk to people when I want to talk to them, and on my time, not
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain that. I love going to my meetings because I get to see my people there.
Yeah.
Um, but then I also can't wait to get home either.
Yeah. So 9 years into sobriety, how many meetings are you attending, say a week?
Um, right now I go to like 2 or 3 meetings a week, but when in early sobriety, I went to as many as possible, and so sometimes I would go twice a day, just because that was what was available. So I went 7 to 9 meetings a week.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't need that many now.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
have you ever been a sponsor to anyone?
Yes, yeah.
Huh?
I have a sponsee right now. Um, but I only have one though. I don't, because I am so busy. I don't want to try and help more than one person at a time, because
Yeah.
I won't have time for that other person, and that's not really fair to them.
Yeah.
So I'll, not to say that I wouldn't talk to anybody if they called.
Yeah.
I just don't have time to take somebody else through the steps as thoroughly as I was taken through them. So I always tell them, go sponsor shopping.
Well, yeah, and I'm sure it's like most other relationships. You also want to you have probably a higher likelihood of success if you have rapport with the person
Yeah.
that is your sponsor or your sponsee. I didn't even know there was such a word as sponsee.
Yeah. I had to train my phone to accept sponsee as a word.
Oh,
Yeah.
so Teresa is saying, "Oh, Kerry, why can't they just drive like us? Like when you say that you don't like people when you're driving."
My
Yes, I
my
know.
husband bought me a sticker. It's a cute little teddy bear like looking thing, and it has a sign. It says "I hate people," and it's on the back of my Jeep. But that's only when I'm driving. Yeah. So
Yeah. Well, I didn't acknowledge Denise when she joined the chat. It's nice to have you here, Denise. And of course, there are Teresa's another purple lover, and so does Denise. So is Denise. So
yeah.
yeah, there we are legion in our numbers. So have you what I mean, other than meeting your deadlines to get these journals done, do you have any other goals or plans for your channel that maybe you want to share with us? Something we should keep our eyes peeled for, or what?
Um, Not really. I mean, I have so much stuff that I've been trying to put together, little like journal kit boxes. Um, but I haven't been able to make any progress on that just because I am on a deadline right now. But I have way too much stuff, and I really don't want to give it to Goodwill. I'd rather somebody, because I do have a website. It's just empty right now because I don't have time to put anything in there. um, but no, I'm just over here doing my thing, and
Uh,
enjoying every minute of it.
Let me interrupt.
Mhm.
Teresa has to go feed her people. She says she'll finish on the replay. Carrie, you're truly an inspiration. And there are multiple exclamation marks. So
Thank
right
you,
on.
Teresa.
I'm glad that I didn't underestimate my viewers, and we could talk about something less than rainbows and butterflies, and still, sort of have it resonate with people. So I'm glad about that. And just for any of you who might have come in late, um, Carrie's hairdo is not the result of any, bad disease or anything like that. She just lives in southern Georgia and is hot, hot, hot because of
Hot.
menopause.
Yeah,
So
had to
her
go.
middle of the back length hair was sacrificed just to stay cool.
Yeah.
Well, and you're so darn busy, you're probably working up a sweat just going.
Yeah, I usually work in a tank top and a pair of shorts. And I get up, I shower, I put my pajamas back on, and then I come down here and work. Tank top and shorts, though, that's pretty much all I wear because it's
Yeah.
just it was supposed to rain today and it didn't. I'm not not happy about that because our pond is going down, and then that means our fish are going to die.
Oh dear. Well, yes, we could definitely use some rain here too, but everything is kind of screwed up, let's just say,
Yeah.
climatically speaking anyway.
Yeah.
Um so where can people find you other than your channel? Do you have an Etsy shop? You said you have a website, but there's nothing to see there right now.
Yeah, that's empty right now because I mean, I could put those in there, but they need to be decorated, so I don't have time for that right now. But eventually, those will be sold, because I need to make room for new ones. Um, but I don't have an Etsy shop, and I don't have a Facebook page. I do drop a TikTok every now and again. Um, but pretty much YouTube is the only place you're going to find me, because I live in my craft room and on YouTube watching other people.
Yeah.
I actually fall asleep to people like you listening to what you're doing.
So it seems like I mean, sometimes I think we tear ourselves into multiple pieces, trying to be everywhere, do everything, satisfy all the recommendations. And I, for one, I don't want to play that game. I can't do all of those things justice. And sometimes I think there's just some grace in admitting that, and
Yeah.
maybe do fewer things, but do them better. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, is there anything that you would like to say that I haven't, that, this has been a meandering conversation for sure.
It
Um,
has.
is there anything you'd like to say, a piece of advice, a word of encouragement for people who maybe are not as far along in their journey of crafting and YouTube and journal making as you are? Maybe people who are concerned about an alcoholic in their family. Um, just how would you like to close this out?
Well, uh, being that I am in sobriety, if anybody needs help, I would be more than happy if they want to reach out to me. My email is always in my description box. I'm more than happy to talk to anybody and help them out with anything that I can. Although from a distance, I don't really know how much I would be able to do except point them in the right direction from where they're at, living wise.
Yeah,
Thank you for having me on here. It's been fun. I was really nervous. I changed my shirt like 5 or 6 times. My husband's like, "Stop it already! You look fine." But as far as advice, just keep doing it, right? Oh, when I said earlier, the whole YouTube channel, but that was an accident. Because what happened was I was researching how to start a YouTube channel, and I didn't realize that I had started a YouTube channel. And so that was in January, I think, of 2023. That August, one of my friends said, subscribe to it. And I was like, no, I don't. She goes, yes, you do, right here. And I was like, oh, crap. Oh, and I have a subscriber already and no videos. So I said, well, it's August. I guess I better get a video out there then, huh? So yeah, some days I'm just like, I want to get a video out, and the day just slips by me and I can't.
yeah,
But I didn't really start YouTube to become famous, or I started my channel just as a de-stressor, right? And not really saying, I expect to get X amount of subscribers and I'm going to make all this money or whatever.
yeah,
No, I just started it because I really enjoy the community. There's so many fun, great people out there that I've met just even being on live in the chat talking to people. I've met so many people, and all of you are great. I'm not going to take the sticker off the back of my car because y'all don't live here. But
but we're all perfect drivers too. Don't forget, we've
right,
never
yes.
cut you off.
Yeah. But yeah, just do it, right? I sent some happy mail out one time, and the woman actually sent me a note back saying, "Thank you. I've never seen a double pocket like that before." And I'm like, I don't even know what I did. Right? And so I do have a suggestion on that, and that is, if you're going to make one thing, make two, and then keep a copy of whatever it is, because I really want to know what that double pocket looked like so I could reproduce it, but I didn't make a copy. So that's what I've started to do is, and yeah, it's kind of getting out of control. I actually need to make a journal that's large so I can stagger them in there so I can, keep things at a minimum as far as storage goes.
Yeah, that reminds me of, falling into YouTube and binge watching, channel after channel. And of course, the big names are the ones that get, show up first in the search engines and the feeds and so on. So I had I've got binders coming out, like just school binders,
Yeah.
and of course millions of pages of ruled paper. So I'm trying to take notes. I would do little drawings. I would make arrows and sort of descriptors there. After a while, I think maybe I was trying a little too hard, but it is good to, when you see a good idea, kind of drop everything, make a prototype, put it
Yeah.
in wherever you keep it. Because honestly, if I had a nickel for every good idea or everything I've admired, and then didn't make, and it's gone.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually what I do, because I did the same thing. Take copious notes and then try and decipher what I wrote
Yeah,
into what I actually saw, and it never makes the cut. So I play, pause, make, and I do that until it's not exactly the same. It's got me in it, but
yeah,
it's definitely from their idea.
yeah,
Um, yeah, because I've met so many people have so many great ideas out there, and I'm like, Why didn't I think of that?"
yeah. I think that, and maybe Susie is saying that she got a notice that she had one subscriber. What is that? I'm thinking that ties into what you just said. In order to watch videos, you kind of need to register, so to speak. So
In order to comment, you have to have
okay,
yeah,
yeah. So
yeah,
that's probably it.
yeah.
But
But that's
Susie,
not
you
what
could
I was
also make
doing.
videos.
Yeah. Yeah, so in order for her to comment on your video, she has to have a YouTube name.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
that's not why I set mine up, because I was just doing research.
yeah. Well, Kerry, it has been a delight to get to know you better. And I think we'll all keep our fingers crossed that you meet Saturday's deadline.
Yep,
I
I
think you
will.
better give your husband a very extra long hug from all of us, because he sounds like he's a huge part of your success, both
He
as a
is.
person and as a seller of journals. And as I said earlier, if you don't know Carrie's channel, check her out. Let's help her get those subscriber numbers up, because as
Thank
I
you.
said to her when I was watching those videos, there were ads, but she's not getting ad revenue. So
Yeah,
what the heck? Let's get her over that hump and get there.
thank you.
Um, it has been a pleasure.
Yeah.
I will just say, as a housekeeping uh, note here, that I did put, because I'm so damn organized, I did put together a schedule. I don't know, like I'm
Oh,
really bad for going to people's post page on their on their channels, but I did put together a schedule for May. I'm going to hold it up. Now I
I did
can't
see
see the,
that.
whoops, can't get myself centered here.
Yep.
Jesus.
But Brenda's next week, Susan's the week after that, and
Then
Gigi
Gigi.
after that.
Yeah. So I just thought if there was a tangible reminder, it might help people see, who's on first, who's on second. Um, and, obviously I feel a certain satisfaction when I fill those slots. So I don't have June entirely filled yet, but it is coming. And I just find that, we're only 4 into this, but all of all of you ladies have been, different but similar. And
Yeah.
it just continues to amaze me that a person can talk to a stranger, but because we have these common interests and maybe some common personality traits,
Yeah.
um, there's instant rapport.
Yeah.
So
Well, I never meet strangers though, even at the grocery store.
Yeah. 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 And Susie is saying that she really enjoyed this and, well, thanking me for bringing you on. So
Thank
that
you,
is
Susie.
awesome. Um, okay, my dear, you have a few good hours of crafting left before
Oh, I got plenty of time. Plenty of
before the
time.
witching hour. Thanks,
Plenty of
guys.
time.
This is, I'm so glad you were here today. And of course, if a person, well, I guess you wouldn't be hearing me say this if you weren't here, the replay is always available. Oh, and Kerry, in a day or so, by tomorrow, you should be able to share the replay on your own channel.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
because
Cool.
if some of your people aren't here, then they should be able to find it on your channel as well.
Okay.
And that'll
Great.
also
You'll
help
have
with
to
your
tell me how to
watch
do
hours. Pardon?
that. You'll have to tell me how to do that because I don't even know how to edit.
Yeah, well, I don't either, so I
Yeah.
can't help you there. But and Terry says this has been wonderful, enlightening,
Oh,
and to
thank
have a
you.
great evening. And Gigi is saying the same thing. And hey, can you, since Gigi is coming up at the end of the month, and she, like some people, has expressed reservations that, oh, what am I going to say? What do I have to say? Um, can you just tell her that it's okay, even if you were feeling a bit nervous?
Yeah. Yeah. I was nervous, but then again, I was only nervous because I've never shown my face on my YouTube channel. The only thing y'all have ever seen is my hands.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people, even that I run into in the store, they all look at me like, oh, something must be wrong, right? Because I have no hair, but that's by choice.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I was nervous, right? Because I don't look like I did when I was 20 anymore, 25. You know what I mean? I had hair
None of
back
us do.
then.
Okay. Good night, everyone. Thanks again, Carrie.
Thank you. I
Okay.
had
Bye bye.
fun.
Yeah. Bye bye.